check, 1 2. Check, 1 2. Heidi, thumbs up over there. What's going on, everybody? Justin Thomas here. Welcome to Top Shelf Fandom. I had to, YouTube is changing around the way they do live streams, so I had to mess with that a little bit. Let us know about levels, but I'm happy to have Heidi here from Costume Co. We're going to be talking about Raised by Wolves. Say hello to everybody. Tell them where you can be found if they've been living under some sort of a rock over there. What's up, Peter Griffin? And let us know about the levels.
Hey, Justin, it's so great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I always love coming on your show. It's always such a blast. And I always love, of course, you coming on my show. But I'm Heidi from Costume Co. If you guys don't know, I have a channel on YouTube and I talk about costumes, I do analysis of different shows and movies. And very excited to chat with you tonight about, I wanted to say Dance with Wolves, but it's Raised by Wolves.
I think that was one of the. I think that that was. I was really young when that came out. I think my mother and my grandmother took me to see that, and we had to take there was a intermission, almost like an act break, like you have it play where they flicker the lights, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, like now we go get booze during that time, but as a child,
Sure.
I wasn't an alcoholic yet. So yeah, I started to, I just think I used the bathroom and got some popcorn or something. But yeah, it was really, really long. But yeah, no, Raised by Wolves has been a gem. It has been a gem for me. I've really, really liked it. I think that we are about to get 2 more episodes tomorrow. So we talked about this because I wanted to present a little, we'll probably just do about an hour, a tight hour. And we will take advantage of all this knowledge that Heidi's got stored up in her head and investigate the costumes a little bit, because one of the first concerns that I had with this series was actually the aesthetic, which I think that I found to be not an issue after the very, very first episode. I thought, okay, now it makes sense. They're at Kepler 22. There's no gap around the corner. So all the tropey stuff, you know, because this is Janetti Yates, I believe, is the name of the costume designer. A little bit of discrepancy about that, but this is a costume designer that's worked with Ridley Scott through Gladiator, through Kingdom of Heaven. So it would make sense that the Templar uniforms, you know, are kind of in sync with the Mithraic, which I've talked about in depth ad nauseum in some of my previous videos. We're not going to so much go through the theology here, but Mithraism is an actual thing. Sol is an actual god, worshipped in many different ways through many different cultures, many different times. Very interesting stuff. Not a make-believe thing. Happy that I was the first to say, hey, it's not BS. But yeah, we have a little bit of a it's very much so Ridley Scott, which isn't a bad thing, right, Heidi? It's not a bad thing, but it can seem a little plain.
Okay, I have to, first of all, I have a confession I have to say before we get into this. That Ridley Scott directed my favorite movie of all time, which is Blade Runner, the first one, not the sequel.
Gotcha.
And so, of course, you know, I was immediately drawn to this. It kind of reminded me actually of a bit of Prometheus and some of his other movies. So of course that android connection between Blade Runner and this is obviously going to be compared, or even Alien, of course, to probably even a greater extent. So Jack, my husband, was like, hey, he's the one who sort of brought this show to my attention. I probably wouldn't have watched it. And then also, Justin, I did see you tweeting about it, but the name immediately kind of intrigued me. Did you find that the name was kind of interesting?
Yeah, because Raised by Wolves, obviously we think of the folklore, I don't know what else you'd really call it, the myth of sorts, but also I think of Romulus and Remus, the founders of Rome. And it is important to know that also a she-wolf was a, in Latin so she-wolf and horror is the same in Latin, just so you guys know. But Romulus and Remus were raised by a she-wolf until a shepherd, like a farmer, came along and raised them, and they're the ones that started on Palatine Hill, on the 2 hills, and then Romulus. So you have a brother, you get that dichotomy going on right there, which I think we'll discuss a little bit with Paul and Campion. I think that we have a Romulus and Remus aspect right there. But yeah, it's very intriguing. It's very much so Adam and Eve, right? It's no matter how you twist it,
for sure,
a start of a society in survival, right? The 3 wolves or 3 little pigs is a story about how to protect yourself. Romulus and Remus is a story about how a very prominent state came to be. And you have a Adam and Eve connection, which is the start of mankind, supposedly. So you have a whole lot of creationalism, right?
It's funny. This has been a real, this sort of like Adam and Eve, the beginnings of humanity has been, I've noticed it's a big theme. It's a big theme in this other show I'm watching, I was mentioning to you, called Lovecraft Country. It's got the
Hmm.
Sons of Adam sort of thing. And then also, you and I were talking about Dark, which also had Adam and Eve. So
Yes.
were you thinking about that when you were watching this? The
I
fact
was
that Dark had sort of a similar sort of theme?
Well, I was thinking about Westworld a lot, to be honest
Or
with you.
Westworld, okay,
Yeah,
yep.
I really like how overt and how over the table they are about their message and the themes. I think it's beneficial because we can get kind of tied up with all the ambiguity and there is power within it. But I think the overtness, and I think this is going to transfer over to our talk about the costuming as well, is beneficial because this is just like they're slicing it like right here on the table for you. They're like, hey, we got to start a new world on a virgin planet.
Mhm.
Is it virgin or not? There seems to be this, these creatures, kind of golem-ish, that taste like pork, evidently, on there. But we see an atheist approach to civilization, opposed to a believer's approach. Obviously, the is very polarizing. It's the direct opposites of each one, but at the same time, it's very intriguing. It's not cloaked in a lot of allegory or anything like that. I think that it's pretty on the table, and I actually appreciate that about it. And that's why, obviously, we've always talked about this, and I always like to clear it up that you are a professional costume designer, but you understand story more so than a lot of people I know, just because you work within this industry and you understand that everything from the buttons on a suit make a difference when telling a story. So we are going
Well,
to touch on
yeah,
that.
actually, Justin, it's funny because I was thinking of doing a video on costume design. Like, what is costume design? Because one of the things that I encounter a lot is something, is it clothing? Is it wardrobe? Is
Yeah.
it fashion? And I always try to explain, no, it's more than that. Like, costumes like evoke a lot more. They tell a story. They tell you about the character. They tell you about the environment. Like, so for instance, you've got these two robots, mother and father, who are like basically on this sort of barren, almost kind of, it's not completely barren planet, but it's not the best place to be, really. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's like
it's
a dead earth.
a dead earth, right? Yeah, exactly. And so, and that yet they're wearing these outfits, but of course they're androids, so it's not like going to be as much of an issue. But I just sort of think it's funny that they're wearing lycra, but meanwhile they're on this crazy planet. Whereas the humans, they tend to dress more for warmth and protection, that type of thing. So yeah, so I think costumes do tell a lot, and I think we know a lot about the characters from the get-go, actually. So you were mentioning but the tropes, but I think that for me personally, everything is sort of appropriate for what the story is telling us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at costuming, you could look at it the same way as you look at the palette, meaning like the tone of the way in which they light it, the way in which they color grade it. You have no internal dialogue in a visual medium. So you have to use your visual as much as possible. You have to do things that are advantageous for the visual medium in which you are in. So clothing your characters, dressing them matters a lot because it can tell a lot about somebody by the way they dress. You can tell a lot about somebody. And this is, showing, let's go over here and I hope you can see it. Let's go over
Mhm.
to this is pretty much pretty stereotypical. But I mean, kind of Ridley kind of coined it, right? With this latex,
Yep.
and so forth. So when I saw this in the first few trailers, I was like, oh man, I was like, it looks a little bit dull to me. It looks a little bit dead. But that's exactly what they're trying to go for, in my opinion. They're looking for like more depth in the message of like procreation and in rising above like these odds in which they have to face, meaning they have to raise a new civilization here, and they're trying to like actually successfully birth new children. So it's a minimalist approach to it. There wouldn't make much sense for them to be dressed. All of mother and father's directives are needs and wants, motivations are geared, whether or not they have agency over them or not, which I believe they do, we'll get into, is geared towards the successful raising of life, right? Organic life.
Sorry, are you asking me a
Yeah,
question?
I mean, they're not actually like looking to impress any, like they're just doing what they need to
No,
do.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm even looking at it and thinking like it looks like it could have even a bit like, I mean, there's a few wrinkles. We were reading that Janty, who's the designer, she was trying to aim for no wrinkles. There are a few here, obviously, because they're going into the creases, but it looks like something that might have even have just been sprayed on them, like
Mhm.
he's just, because if you remember in the flashback scene where mother is lying on the table and she's nude, although not in nude sense of like human nude, but
Yeah.
she doesn't have any clothing on. And so this looks just like something like it's like a sleeve or something. That's basically all it is. And it doesn't even have any seams. Like the neckline is just basically like laser cut. So it's just like incredibly minimalist. And even the helmets that they wear on the spaceship when they're coming in and they land are very, very minimal, have a bit of a medieval feel to them. They're sort of like, I was looking it up. They're kind of like it's like a Salé or a Bourgogne,
Yes.
which is a type of helmet, an open-faced medieval helmet. So as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, I really like this. Like I'm kind of keen on this. And I think the other thing is what my impression was is that it's sort of sophisticated. So even the hair as well. Obviously, we see the hair and the eyes. It's very just, mother and father are kind of like two sides of the same coin. Like it's like, he's found her creator. Actually, it's not her creator. I guess he adapted her, but he found her like a male counterpart to sort of complement her and be a companion and a helper sort of thing.
Absolutely.
So,
And I
so
think that
I kind
go ahead.
so I kind of I actually thought it was a pretty sophisticated design. Like as soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, whoever is doing the costumes here is very skilled. And it, because I think it is quite a sophisticated design, even in its minimalism in some situations.
Yeah, I agree, because what I see from this is a minimalist approach to the aesthetic, but there is quite a layered approach to mother and father. They have the same issues that a couple would have. I know this. I'm sure a lot of you guys know this. They have some of the same arguments we'd even see. Now, we know that they were
She doesn't like his jokes, like they kind of get
Yeah.
on her nerves.
Well, they have, I hate to use the word, but, like human emotions. I think that they
Hmm.
have range and they have agency, and it's something I deeply believe. I think that they have a certain amount of agency in which Campion Sturgis, the creator, who was a philosopher and was somebody that was well, raised within the Mithraic community, meaning he came from a family of means, and they call him a traitor. We just recently got this, that the creator of the bots is actually not the atheist, it is the Mithraic. So they create
Yeah.
these bots, and then Campion Sturgis switch camps. So this is why I look at this kind of like a theologian's, like it's like a sandbox for him, right? Like it's like
Hmm.
he's playing games. So like what they wear is of no note to him, but we do see them in a little bit of casual wear right here, which is this hemp, is this wool. I'm bad with, I worked at the Gap in Banana Republic and a few other places, but like what,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, like what is this? They do change a little. This is like the one switch up I found.
Yeah, she's actually wearing it over top of her unitard.
Yeah.
One of the things I was going to say actually about the clothing here is so I did this interview last week with this other costume designer, and one of the things he was mentioning is when you're designing something, you have to think about the environment and where are the clothes coming from. One of the things will give them credit for is that they show mother weaving,
Hmm.
and even like there's curtains as well, like because it's sort of like these makeshift homes that they've created, except for that that dome which they came with that, but everything else they've sort of made with stuff from around the planet. But it looks like it's hemp, or it looks like it's linen, which is flax, or and yet I don't see any signs of them growing flax or hemp. So that's a little bit of a disconnect for me. And But at least I do like the fact that and you watch Vikings Justin, on Vikings, they do show them doing the weaving. So
Oh
I
yeah,
at
yeah,
least,
yeah. I looked
yeah.
into. I did a whole theory on that, which turned out to be
Mhm.
nothing. But yes, no,
Oh,
yes, yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. I like how they do
And
that.
and actually they do it accurately, because I went to a museum like about a year ago, and they had a huge Viking exhibit, and I met some people who were doing authentic, like they're reenactors, but they did authentic type of weaving, and they did it that way. So I was very pleased. So I was pleased to see them employing that type of thing. I'm not sure where mother, I mean, I guess she'd be programmed with that, all of the knowledge that she needed, to raise children and so on. So I don't have a problem with that, but just I do have a little bit of an issue with where would they have gotten the plants, because the stuff they were growing for food didn't look like the type of thing. It would be more like it looked more like banana leaves would be like you can make clothing out of banana leaves or even like corn husks, like that type of thing, but it doesn't look like that. So
Yeah,
um,
and that's a valid point. And actually, I didn't even expect that coming from. I expected valid points, but I didn't expect a challenge on this one. There are a few issues with the show. Now, I love the show. I think Heidi, you love the show as well.
oh, I do, yeah,
We are very much so bought in, people.
we
But we
are.
also, with a critical eye, we must be critical. And I think there's a few issues here. I think you just brought up one that I was not aware of course, because I don't know what they were wearing or where they would have grown it from. And it seems like they're eating
Honestly,
fungus.
and it's not even that big of a deal, but
No.
when I spoke to Christopher about this, he was saying that this costume designer, he was saying you don't want your audience to be having to ask these questions, because
Yeah.
it kind of like takes you out of the story. Like, well, where did they get that from? You know what I mean?
You don't want to
So
spread that suspension of disbelief too thin.
exactly. So you want to try to provide as many answers for them as possible. And that would have been a good thing for them to do, to say, hey, maybe we'll find, maybe it'll pay off later. But at this point, it doesn't seem like it's happening.
Yeah.
And there's no animals on the planet. There's no sheep. There's no animals being raised. So it can't be animal. It has to be. And also, they seem to be a vegetarian society, except for that one. They seem to be vegetarian. I'm not sure what that's about. If that's an atheist thing,
I just
being
think that
vegetarian.
I think that they're very surprised that there's anything else living on Kepler 22. Which I
Mhm.
brought this up to you prior to our stream. I said the one thing that I would say is a plot hole is, and now you've added a little bit to it. It doesn't make the show bad. It just is what it is. They should know that anything other than an android couldn't have gotten to this quote unquote virgin planet before them. So when they see Mother with the children, they shouldn't be like, it should be more of like, so where, like, okay, so it had to take us because we can't, as humans, travel as fast. Where'd you come from? They seem, I mean, they kind of inquire, it is what it is. But yeah, it seems to be a little bit too much of a just like, I don't know, nonchalant like approach to like, okay, like, these people have been here for this long. I guess that's okay. Like, you think you're going to a virgin planet, you're either going to one or you're not. Like, there'd be big questions to ask for people that have been there for an extended period
Yeah,
of
I
time.
mean, they know
Where's
she's a
your parents?
necromancer.
Where's your
Yeah.
parents? No, I mean, they figured this
Yeah.
out fairly
Oh.
quick, but
Oh,
you know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah.
I mean, generations upon generations, they see children, blah, blah, blah. So, but that's also an interesting fact. But I think it's just that we do see mother and father doing things not only to comfort the children, but to comfort each other. We see father. This is something I find very endearing. 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 Is that father
And enduring.
Yes, well, yeah, it's very enduring. But no, my endurance had to be up for it. Yeah, but I find it to be very, very, find it to really just hit home when you see them trying to impress each other, trying to, right by each other. It seems, everybody always argues about agency and programming. We're all pre-programmed to a bit. I won't go on some diatribe, but it is what it is. I find mother and father to be they are just as stale as they are like amazingly human, right? Like they are so stale. They are so just like you said, like with that, it looks like it could be a bodysuit that put onto them or something, like the latex. There's few
Hmm.
creases, but at the same time, there's emotion within it. And I think that's like to create that type of a dichotomy, right? It's definitely aesthetically stale, but emotionally vibrant.
I think actually that's a really good point. Like I think one of the things, because the costumes are so minimal, it allows the actors to really work with work with their expressions, and it's sort of just you're not focused on that. You're just kind of more focused on them, their eyes. That's one thing I find really captivating. I think they must be wearing contacts or what have you. Obviously they are in several scenes. And then with the hair as well, like the way that I just think it's really interesting. Like, so in the last episode, Mother had like longer hair, and then for some reason they decided to give her like this sort of David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust kind of look. Did
Yeah.
you sort of notice that?
Yes.
Where and then what's the deal with the mullets? But that's another thing.
Yeah, because Sue has one as well.
Yeah.
Mullets come
Yeah.
back.
It's
It's
just
the end of the world when the 80s.
I think it's a fashion thing.
Yeah, when the 80s cycle back through,
Yes.
shit's donezo. I think it was just more of a, a feminine, even though it's not really for our contemporary times, but I guess more hair, resembles or symbolizes femininity. I don't know. I'm not gonna make any
And
statements.
also even in the casting of the actor who plays Mother, she's very androgynous looking.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Actually, Justin, I tweeted about this. I don't know if I was annoyed by it. I'm not really sure how I feel. But when Mother becomes a weapon, and then she goes into the air and she's like,
Yeah.
and then the lasers. I noticed that the concept artist gave her breasts. Like the actor herself really doesn't have much going on there. She's just sort of like fairly flat chested. I would say, I don't mean to be rude, but she doesn't really have a lot in the bust department. But when she turns into the weapon, they give her, suddenly she's got this she's more curvy, and I was like, it kind of annoyed me that they did that. That was another little very minor complaint I had.
Well, that's interesting too, because they've made a point of this. The lack of femininity in the sense of how we know it as being fertile, it is not applicable to these androids, right?
Absolutely,
So she has no nipples because nipples are not needed. I guess those guys should take note from this, unless you want to milk something. And she doesn't have them. But she does try to breastfeed, and she's unable to. She does this in a scene, but when she turns into the necromancer, not only does her hair turn into this, I have this on screen right now. It's like almost like it's maybe a northern helmet. You'd consider it to be like not Saxon, but
it's kind of like, it's got a bit of a warrior a look to it. It kind of reminds me a little bit, the whole physique actually kind of reminds me of Metropolis. Like it has that sort of a bit of it's almost bronze looking.
Yeah, and I wish I would have got a picture to represent, because I do understand what you're saying. There's more of a shapely tone to her body. I don't know if it's armor that is being portrayed, but maybe it is more that she is more emotional during this time as well. So I don't know.
I don't know if it was that, or it's just like the concept, the graphics department we're just like, oh, let's just make her curvier. I'm not really sure, because like you say, she doesn't need to be womanly. Like for instance, like a lot of cultures, they will judge how a woman's shape is, if whether she'll be fertile or not, right? So many types of cultures do that. So if someone was to judge her, they would probably be like, no, she's not fertile, she's not, she doesn't have
childbearing hips,
she doesn't have childbearing hips. Like they look, usually actually I've read that they'll look at the waist to hip ratio. So if a slim waist and then larger hips is oftentimes what they'll think of as being, good for childbearing. So she has more like I said, kind of a Ziggy Stardust androgynous sort of silhouette.
Well, and that's where it really, gets interesting, because we have this whole conception of how things should be, but it is a little bit of spirituality that's embedded in us, as well as science, right? Like they think that like the reason in which we have something called the uncanny valley, where somebody looks just human but just off, is because that's like somebody in the past that might have been sick, like too pale, a lack of like emoting, meaning like a lack of reflexes within whatever your eyes, blah blah blah. They're just not acting like right. They're almost human, but they're slightly off because they're diseased, right? So they would think people, that this is just a theory, but science would say that people would know not to mate with them because they're sick. So we have this displayed in not only just a spiritual way, but also like a science. And this is what is really this whole story is based off of, is science versus religion. So we have all of these expectations that are implanted within us, and we have to understand whether or not they are practical, pragmatic practices, or if they are spiritual, and where does the, where does it end, and where does the benefit end, and is there a means to an end when it comes to praying? We see this a lot with Campion already. We see him going and doing the ultimate science-y thing, right? Getting his fungus, like to your point. They obviously don't have sheep to shear and make clothes out of, or hemp to smoke and make clothes out of, but they have fungus to eat, right? And he puts it in that, whatever that thing is that they made up, and he sits there and he has a moment, like a prayer.
It's something Omatic 2000.
Doesn't matter. It's not a real thing.
It's a Moss Reader 2000.
Well, you remembered. Yeah. Everybody give Heidi.
I don't know.
Yeah, she is smarter than I. It is what it is. They made it up. You remembered it. You nailed it. But the thing is that at that point, he said, I did everything I could scientifically. Now let me just hope. So I find that to be endearing, right? Like I find that to be something I can connect to a little bit, right? Like there is a benefit to that type of belief, and I think that that's what they're hedging towards, is like, where does this, like, where does it become ignorant, right? Where does it become just like blind ignorance? We see that on the other side, which I want to talk about their costumes. Clearly Crusader, which I like. I like a hell of a lot.
I do too.
Because Kingdom of Heaven, one atrocious piece of history, and shouldn't be taken literally whatsoever, but one hell of a movie and very aesthetically pleasing. This is clearly a Crusader take on their garb. Am I correct on this?
No, you're absolutely right. I saw it immediately and completely. So and like the Knights Templar, like they would have worn white as well. And they would have had like a red cross. So instead we have the sun god sigil, I guess you could call it. Like a lot of knights will wear the sigil. Like we see that in Game of Thrones even, right? We see them wearing their sigils on their clothing, festooning their banners. So it's the same sort of idea, except in this case, it's a religious thing as opposed to a house or a kingdom, and on top of it, like being kind of cool, they're very cool, but they're also just incredibly well made. Like I was like, wow, those are gorgeous, stunning.
Yeah, it's a really interesting take on it because it is, again, minimalist and right on the nose, which at first I was like, it looks a little bit, even they're carrying Ambrose on the sled of sorts. I forget what you'd call it. But,
I know, Jack and I were laughing at that. We're like, oh my God, that's just ridiculous.
He's like the leper king. It is.
It's just, it's just ridiculous. Like, but this is what I guess he's like, I'm the top guy. You're going to carry me. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Octavius.
I don't care that we're in the desert and it's, really uncomfortable and boiling and we're wearing these outfits that are probably like 200 degrees or something. Well,
before Octavian became Augustus, he was carried on a sled many of battles into it because he was constantly sickly. So yeah, a hierarchy that doesn't quite make sense. So it's an institutional commentary that we have going on here. But also the Mithraic are known to have all their symbolism, and anything that's been excavated through any archaeological digs has actually been through like these egg-like rocks. Actually, and we see a lot of the symbolism in this picture right here. And,
so I have to check. Sorry.
Yeah, it's very interesting that they are touching on that, and that is the sun god, and that was what the Cyprus the Great, the Persian god, that Alexander. If you've ever seen that, that's applicable to that. But also Rome took it, and then again, not to get I've linked before videos to go look at like the theology of this, but this is kind of like a methodology. And it's more of a practice in the way that you worship for the most part. Now they definitely worship the sun god, but like it's been like applicable to almost all religions throughout time. So it's very interesting. And they've found all the archaeological excavation has found them to be like within these egg shaped caves and so forth. So I find it to be very interesting. But we also have the inversion of it, in which the androids let them wear. Now, I used to make a bigger deal out of this before I saw the series. I won't anymore. I just take this, and I just want your opinion on this, because if you invert a sigil, it is a bastardization of it. I no longer stick by that. I just stick by this is the color they had, and they went with it. because you see, obviously, you just saw Space Ragnar. Let's just call him that.
Yes.
And then now we see this. So this, I don't think it's so much
wait.
an inversion. It's just, this is the garb in which the children had.
Yeah. Sorry, hold on. Are you going through it?
Yeah, it should be right
Here we
there.
go. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Thank you.
I don't think this is any commentary. I speculated about this before, but I don't think anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. There's like in sigils, there are like, if it's a sigil like of a kingdom or of a house, there are rules regarding how, okay, at least in terms of coat of arms, there's only certain things you can do. So you can't put, like, for instance, a metal with a metal. So you can't put a gold with a silver, or you can't put certain colors. Like you can put a color with like a gold, but so there's certain things you can't do. So about inverting, I'm not sure. And it would be up to whatever they decided in this world. Like, so they've made the rules. So whatever the rules they have made in this world, like Game of Thrones, for instance, they, for the most part, do follow the rules of medieval times, like from what I've discovered.
Blackfire's inverted.
Yes, exactly. So, and also it does tend to have usually, like, for instance, like a chevron, for instance, if it's like goes this way, it means one thing because it's like the roof of a house. Whereas if it's inverted, it has a different meaning, like the Spartans. So it's like, so depending on what they're doing. So it'd be interesting to decide. They could have just said, okay, since we're putting the kids in these sort of gray uniforms, maybe it will look nicer if we put a white sun on them, as opposed to, it might have just been a design decision as opposed to because of the rules of the society, or maybe because they're children, they don't get to wear the full proper sigil. It could be something like that.
Yeah. To identify them.
To identify them. Yeah. But they're still part of that, society, that culture.
Yeah, I'm in agreement on that. Now, this was speculation I had before the first episode, because what I see now is they're definitely in line, and they definitely want to see the polar opposite of the, like, very stale android garb compared to the Crusader. But the children with them are wearing this. I'm colorblind. I think it's like a blue and white, whatever. It's like a greenish, whatever it is. Literally, actually, I'm colorblind. But it is what it is. I don't think they're really sending a message there, other than they're allowing them to wear this garb, which identifies them, which serves a certain amount of purpose. But I find it to be very interesting that they are making sure to still keep with the symbolic garb, right? Like, they're not just there and gonna tell her they're identifying themselves still, because they're going to somebody, a mother for all intents and purposes, whether or not they knew, which they should have from the very get-go, not a human, but like they're questioning about belief systems. So, like, obviously this is intergalactic belief.
Yeah, like, for instance, like if like in Star Wars, when they had the the young Jedi are all in some type of version of what the adults would wear. So in this case, the children are in, like, I guess like a nursery, when mother comes in to take them. So I think that all of the children are in sort of this similar type of uniform. So the adults have their sort of clothing, and depending on where you are in the hierarchy of the order, you wear a different type of outfit versus like if you're a soldier versus if you're like a high priest or priestess or what have you, whatever they're called. So you have a sort of a different sort of style of the clothing. So for the children, they have it'd be interesting to see what the babies would wear. And also the androids that are in the order also have a slightly different outfit. You notice that?
Yeah. And I see a slight difference between the different type of androids. We have the leash android, which I think is actually an acronym.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know it off the top of my head, but it is. And we have the gentleman in his helmet. Now, this is both symbolic of blind faith, right? Of somebody saying, I cannot see you, but I can see the shadow of you, to Space Ragnar there. And Ragnar is being faced with the same type of, conundrum in which Ragnar himself was faced with the crisis of faith, of power being handed to him. I wanted to cut the scene actually from there when he talks about why he became king, and so forth. But at the same time, we have like a pragmatic reason for this type of helmet on this gentleman with his leash android, right? Again, another example of them not being completely in line with like who's an android and not. Like the android has to identify what model he is and blah blah blah, which that would be my really only complaint about this show. It's like, come on, like it's pretty clear, like you guys especially are the people that made these.
Yeah. Do you have a picture of that, Justin?
No, I don't. I was looking. I could not
okay.
find one because one of the issues I had with it is there is 2 spikes on the side of that helmet. Now, it will crush his head if he runs too far away from the android, right? That has been stated. So we get this android in which has somebody. Now, they're pretty much saying this is Orthos. Orthos is one of the higher, ranking priests within this Mithratic religion, in which Tempest was supposedly, Tempest was definitely raped by a higher ranking member of this, but we're just right away jumping to the conclusion that it's this guy in the helmet. I'm not jumping to that conclusion. I know she was raped. I'm not saying she wasn't. I'm saying I don't know why we just jumped to this is the only rapist. Unfortunately, speaks true within this religion. I mean, I don't think that's actually like an accurate conclusion just to jump to right away. I think that there's a good chance that this could just be just another depiction of the folly within their methodology, meaning like the hierarchy in the institution in which the Mithraik live within, because we already see it. We see Ragnar raised to the top right away. We see Caleb raised to the top right away.
Yeah, I know. That's really crazy.
But he's got this crisis of faith because there's a pragmatic benefit for that, right?
Yeah.
He's given more food. Sue's given more food. He can get to Paul quicker, right? They can get to the kids. So there's like this pragmatic belief system in which they're exhibiting. But at the same time, you got to wonder if those aren't some Chekhov spikes right there, because why are there spikes if you are trying to keep somebody that's potentially dangerous, obviously dangerous as a sexual deviant. But yeah, you put spikes on the outside, a little bit crazy. A little bit, like the reversal of the, which isn't even a real thing, the Iron Maiden. They just found a coffin and found some spikes and put them together.
Yeah,
Not a real thing.
a lot of helmets did have spikes on them. So again, it could be a design decision.
But that's not smart. If I have a prisoner, I don't give him a helmet that has a weapon.
No, I know. No, I totally know what you're saying. Sorry guys, I got a tickle here. No, I know what you're saying. It could, we don't have enough information yet. I feel that's sort of where I'm at with that character. And until it's sort of, maybe, you say there's 2 more episodes coming up, maybe we'll learn more, but I'm kind of, I probably would reserve judgment on it until I know more. I sort of feel like that about it, Justin.
What I feel about it is that we don't see the face for a reason. Dramatic effect.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay. So if you're going to cloak a face in a story, guys, so this is where my theory comes in. You're cloaking it because there's a reveal. So what would the reveal possibly be? How many people do we actually know in this story that aren't actually, presented to us visually, like overtly? Well, Campy Sturgis is one of them. Now, my theory isn't that is him, but there is some dramatic effect. I think we're supposed to think it's him. I think that he actually is the one, that jumps out of there all loopy with the, which would be the atheist pack and on the that we saw depicted within Sue and Marcus. So what I'm thinking is that this person is depicting what happens when somebody like Marcus, right, hears the voice of Soul, but then the voice stops talking, right? Like, so it like leads, because he has heard something. And one of my wonderful Patreons, Bruce Seymour, brought up to me that Mother waved her hand in front of him.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, remember when it's the first or second episode, there's that hand wave that she does in front of him. So I think just as she can make the children fall asleep or do this or that, there are no limits, first off, which could be a problem, to what we know Mother can do, because there seems to be more and more, and she sometimes actually goes to the point of saying, I didn't know I could actually do that. They're like, oh, why didn't you ever do that before? She's like, I didn't know. So a little bit on the edge on that one. Still loving it.
That's kind of like a glamour, like the fact, like that's like sort of a vampire thing, like her being some
we
of
don't
the
know
skills
the extent
she has.
of her power by
we don't.
this time. So I would say that there is a chance.
It appears that she's extremely powerful, though.
In Cameron Sturgis, Campion Sturgis, trying to make his name an actual name, not a messed up mix of a name, Campion Sturgis, gave her the powers that she had. He also gave her, I'm assuming, to be some sort of a romantic, angle to the whole thing, because she seems to have a certain amount of lust towards him as well, which I found to be interesting, because she kills the first child, which is horrifying during the experiment, right? He gives her the baby, and he's like, ooh, just a test. But like, is that programming within her, or what is the amount of agency that you see? Because she seems to have a connection to him that could cause more of a problem down the road. Because what I think is going to happen, long story short, is these people are going to have to get together to get along quicker than they can go to war. Meaning there's a third party already. There's might be two other parties, but we know for sure there's some pork animals, some
we haven't seen the, like, she keeps going on, but this other area that they want to go to, so we haven't seen a lot of the planet yet.
They're gonna have to get along.
Yeah. I actually, for me, what it sort of felt like with, he's her creator, even though he's taking an existing person, he's trying to like put humanity into her, I feel like. And so every time he's doing the different stages, it's a little bit like, like Westworld. What do you call that again? Where you do like all the different tests that you do. Fidelity.
Yeah, you would go
it's
through
kind of like,
in your programming and their attributes, like you're adjusting like their disposition towards this or that. So why would he allow a romantic emotion?
I think he was lonely. I think he was really lonely, and I think and it's kind of like you kind of come to love your creation, it's sort of that whole thing. It's like Svengali, or it's like Pygmalion, like you kind of come to love something that you've created. And I think that's what happened. I think he was just lonely because do we have an idea of how long it was? I mean, I think it took a long time for him to do this. He was sick, or we think he was sick, as you said.
Yeah, he coughs. He's wearing a mask. They have the announcement within the facility saying that the air is not, safe to breathe.
It's toxic.
Yeah. So every indication, but it doesn't seem like it's more than a few days. But at the same time,
Peter Griffin has a great theory.
Let's look at it. So let's see. Will it be ironic if the origin of humanity is from Kepler 22, not Earth, back to square one, and figure AI sent the last humans? Oh,
it's a little bit Planet of the Apes there.
It is. But that's not unfounded, Peter. That is
I love that theory. It's a great. By the way, I want to say hi to everybody. Apparently, Human and Peter. I didn't get to see hi to you and Bruce. Who else did we miss? Sunflower
Beth. We've got Bruce.
Yeah,
we've got
Christian.
the whole gang
Miss
here.
T. Hi, everyone. I know a lot of these people I see in my
oh no,
stream,
these are all
so
great.
I was
people.
really wonderful
this has
people.
attracted the best of the best right here. Bruce
awesome
wants to know, what do you guys think about mothers singing? I think this again is a very it seems off, right? Because they have to program her to be caring and to somewhat, be I don't want to say obviously fragile, but comforting to the children.
Yeah.
So there are things that she does within her program. But again, I don't look at that any different than somebody being raised. Like a human being raised. I honestly don't look at that much different. I honestly don't.
Well, he's given Dad the jokes, and he's given her the singing, and it is a bit of a trope, like it's like we're talking about tropes. It's sort of like it is or like a stereotype, like moms do the singing, dads do the jokes, perhaps. That couples bicker a little bit with each other. So he's given them these little nuances, these little like sort of just things that are specific to them, but absolutely with the singing, but she seems to also enjoy it, because there are times when she's doing it, I'm pretty sure, where she's by herself, which would say to me that she's doing it for herself.
Yeah, there's every implication that she is working outside of like prior programming. Like she has a large amount of range within the agency in the emotional like she's able to dictate her emotions quite frequently. It seems like they're able to be jealous. They're able to be to feel like father feels inferior, right? Like those are things that are beneficial if you're trying to be better, right? To be self-aware, to be, you know, like what is the saying that God, you know, made us self-aware, but then, you know, he fucked us because he made us self-conscious, you know, you know, like to be able to look in the mirror and be like, what's wrong with me? So those are things that are advantageous. I think we're dealing with this sort of thing. And if you're going off of Campion Sturgis, this is somebody I think is very interesting that he is somebody that is looked at as a traitor, because you see her, you know, her actual dialogue with him right away is, you're a traitor. You did this, you know, like you used the funding to go to school and all this. So this is like a theologian. This is a very smart man that was raised within the faith. So every like attribute in which he installed within them, I don't look at that as much different than kids being raised and having certain traditions and values installed within them. It's just much more of obviously a technical and instantaneous, you know, procedure. So he can only go off of what he knows. And I think if there's ever going to be a mad theologian, it might be a theologian at the end of his life, like Campion is, Sturgis, and he might be using this test planet, Kepler 22, in my opinion, as a little bit of a mad scientist. Like these are lab rats. Like he's trying to see what prevails, atheism or Mithraism, you know, like this Mithratic way. So I think it's very interesting. The singing seems to trouble Father, Bruce says. So yeah, Father is, he says, what did he say in the last episode? He said, it was 2 episodes ago, that she knows the limitations of his programming, right? So that's just like saying, like, I know, hey, Justin, you're smart, but, you know, you lack a little bit here. But that's a very, like, it's very robotic, but it's also very human. I think that, yeah, they have these annoyances. They have these issues, these foibles with each other. They are so much more human than you would expect androids to be. They wouldn't say, oh, you're you know, like, you're actually displaying this type of behavior, you know, with like some code. No, like they're self-conscious, they're self-aware, they have an agency, and I don't think that he would have done this. I honestly think this is some sort of a sick test. I really do. I honestly do, and I think it's just what a dying theologian would do.
Yeah, even my own feelings towards mother and father. Like I immediately liked father. Like when I first watched the show, I was immediately drawn to father because he seemed of the two to be the more, you know, caring for the children, whereas she to me felt like a little bit more as they might say, a refrigerator mother, like a little bit colder.
Yeah.
And but then as of course as time goes on, I come like my feelings for her have completely changed. Like I'm kind of like all over the place with her. And then when she does that whole thing, it was like very Game of Thrones, like Cersei Lannister. She just goes full on ballistic, you know, protecting her cubs, you know, like a mother wolf. You know, she just completely loses it when she sees that they're going to try and take that boy away from her. Mother bear, even, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I thought that was a completely human thing to do. Even though she went like, you know, she went from 0 to 6, you know, 360.
But that's what happened. It's because of her capabilities. That's a very human emotion, but the capabilities range so much further, right? Like she's a necromancer, so she's able to turn into the, like, okay, so you can go like mother bear, hockey mom, whatever. Remember Sarah Palin? Like she's like
Cersei Lannister.
Yeah. Oh, don't you know? But you know, like the range,
don't you know
the capabilities of a necromancer? I can see Kepler 22 from my board. Don't you know? But yeah, you know, like so, like we see, but it's still the same emotion.
Oh my God, Justin, you got to get that put on a T-shirt.
Yeah,
I can see Kepler 22 from my porch.
Yeah, I've lost enough money. Yeah, but
oh my God, that's so funny.
But you know, like. It is the same emotion. It's just a different capability, right? So we really shouldn't look at it that differently than we would look at somebody just straight up, like you said, like Cersei freaking out, and even her, she's step downs. She's the worst one.
Yeah, like they, or even Danny. I shouldn't go there.
Nope,
but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
no, don't go there.
Right away. Oh my God,
but yeah, she's willing to burn the city down for God's sake.
What would you do for your kids? Right?
Oh yeah, anything.
That means anything.
Absolutely.
People. I don't have them, but I know this. Like I talk about this a lot in Westworld. When you pose that question to people, it always sounds very, very chivalric in the terms of, or the, you know, case of like Game of Thrones, or it sounds very, you know, like reasonable even in our contemporary lives. Oh, well, I'll do anything for my kid. Of course you will. Anything literally fucking means anything, and we've seen this in some pretty dire circumstances that it's not a great thing. So you will do anything for them. So I think there's a large amount of emotional range. I really like that you see it right away. The father has that like idiom, for her, the joke, like right when they're like lifting, right when they crash land in the Kepler. But when she's giving birth, you see the agency within her programming, right? Because again, we're all programmed to some extent. People, don't act like you didn't have mothers and fathers, and if you didn't, don't act like the orphanage didn't teach you something. So like you're all predisposed in a certain way. But as soon as she becomes emotional when she's having the children, she doesn't want to hear his jokes. Right? She says no.
Actually, there's some truth to that. Like, for instance, I remember with my first, we were in the hospital and my husband left and came back and I was in labor. And then I think he was talking to me and I was like, please don't talk to me.
Yeah, shut up. You did this. Shut up.
Don't talk to me. Like, seriously, I'm dealing with this right now. So I could sort of see that. Actually, that's a bit of a trope, but there's some truth to it.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. I mean, it's a very uncomfortable situation, I would imagine.
You're actually in pain. So you're just like,
I've heard this about labor. No. I've heard that it's slightly uncomfortable.
Or someone touching you, it's kind of like anything. Like, when you've got like a really bad headache, you don't want anyone kind of like talking to you or being around you.
You heard it first here. Having a headache and giving birth is the same thing. Top shelf in.
Yeah, like a migraine headache. A migraine headache could be twins. Close too. Yeah. It can be unbearable.
But and so you have to look at these situations. I think they've laid out, because what is best for Paul in the minds of Sue and it's Caleb. Is it Marcus? I just keep calling him Space Ragnar, which I need to fix.
It's Marcus and Sue.
Yeah. So it's Marcus now. It was Caleb. So it's Marcus and Sue.
Yes.
Now, what is best for getting Paul? Following a religion. That's actually the best path they have right now. It's because of the power situation in which they're in within the institution. They have the most agency over their decisions by following these Mithraic. What is the best thing for mother and father? The atheist way in which they're taking. So they both have the same goal. The motivation.
Yeah, I can completely identify with Sue and Marcus. Like, I'd be like, if I were in that situation, I would do the same thing they're doing.
Yeah.
I would. It would be hard. It would be hard to pretend to be somebody you're not. I mean, even that whole thing with them having their faces redone, which was kind of like, by the way, that kind of reminded me of Philip K. Dick, which there is a bit of a feel of a Philip K. Dick here.
There will always be. Philip K. Dick will reside within all of these Android stories for the rest of the time, and damn well of course, he should.
Yeah, and of course, like Ridley Scott did Blade Runner, and which is Philip K. Dick as well. So I sort of feel that that when you're put in that type of situation, you're just going to be like, or even like you see, like I'm thinking of a zombie series, you're just going to do what you have to do at the time to survive.
Yeah, within the institution in which you reside in. We see how mother's reprogramming could be attributed to Marcus's from Caleb. His reprogramming in the sense of like he has to change the way in which he believes, like a spiritual, like a turn in spirituality, a revelation of sorts. But of course, it's not that organic. It's not something he truly believes in, but we can see him struggling with it because he's starting to feel hints of it. And I have to think that when we have Tully or Tally, that is coming to them, and we have this third party right now that is just, let's call them the Golem Beasts, that we have two parties that are spiritually different, right? But they all have the same motivation.
And they've changed roles, right? They sort of have flipped. Like they both have gone on in opposite camps. We don't know where father came from. I'm hoping we'll find out where he came from.
But mother is definitely the same as like Marcus, like you're saying. Like it's the same
absolutely
deal.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. The other thing I like though about the show is they don't I don't feel like they're pushing an agenda. I don't feel like they're pushing like making one be the bad guy or the good guy and the other one be the bad. I feel like they're kind of letting us decide. They're sort of giving them equal sort of opportunity. And whereas a lot of shows will always set up the bad guy and the good guy. So in this case, it's a lot more nuanced. It's a lot more complicated, I think. So when you at the beginning, you might think, oh, wow, mother's this heartless, android and all these children under her died. Like I read this one review where they were like, they didn't like the fact that the children, it hadn't been explained why the children died, which of course we do find out what happened.
Yeah.
And that didn't bother me at all because, and for me, I think the reason why is that it didn't feel that important at the time. It was more the reaction, her reaction to it, and father's reaction to it, that, and maybe Campion's reaction, that to me was more important. It wasn't like, why did the children die? It was more like, well, how did it affect everybody else that was still living?
How
That
many
felt
people
more important
still
to me.
lose children, unfortunately, due
Oh
to
God, yeah,
circumstances in which they cannot define? That is
yeah,
a very, first off, yeah, not the actually to shame that reviewer. Like, get a
yeah.
thinking cap, you dunce. Yeah, like that's not a great perspective on life. It's like you find yourself asking a lot, and that's what the series is about. Why? Because there's something that science can't determine at the time. And yes, science did determine it later, the carbos, we get the answer for it. But that crisis of faith, that faith in which, we see that kind of like coming out with Campion, right? Like we see people that go the scientific way, but they still want to still like will something to happen. Doesn't mean that thing exists, doesn't mean it is what it any higher power, but it does mean that there's a practical use for it, and there's just as much of an argument for that. And I'm not pushing an agenda either. I'm pretty much agnostic. I just appreciate it. I don't like the pseudo intellectual take on you must be an idiot if
Hi,
you're a
Alicia.
believer. You get what I mean? That's I don't like that with Westworld. I think this one thing this show does really well is makes you actually look at the situation in which we reside in ourselves, and you can do everything you can right within the constraints our lives, and then still have, like, just like Campion, when they're putting the fungus in the little machine that the name of, he still has a moment of prayer,
The
right? Like, and father's like, what are you
the
doing?
fungus Rama meter
Yeah, no, you
2000.
had the right name. She's smart. She's smart. I didn't have it, but no, yeah, she knew exactly. That's the 2200. Yeah, blah, blah. But no, but it's a good. I don't know. It makes you, well, like all good stories do. They make you have some introspection. They make you think about life, and it's not an agenda. I don't think it has one either. I mean, honestly, I think it's somebody playing God themselves within this. That's my theory. I think Campion Sturgis is playing God. I think he's literally, either it's an android version of him or he's still alive and he's at the end of his life. There's about 12 to 13 years that take him to get there. I mean, it's a little bit out there, but I think somebody is obviously, there is some fuckery going on here. I don't
Yeah. The other
think,
thing I want
yeah.
to say is it's interesting that Campion, the child, is still alive. Like he was the one surviving child, and his name is Campion. And also, why did he survive? Like, was it the tear? Like, there's a lot of symbolism, I think, with that. Um, but it's interesting to know why he, and also that he sort of himself has sort of taken on this sort of more religious sort of thing. Because I always thought that children tend to be taught religion. I used to think that, but then now, of course, my kids, they talk to other kids they have that influence around them. But my one son who's outside the door right now, he tends to be more religious than I am. And
Mhm.
honestly, I haven't done anything. I haven't talked to him about it at all. He'll ask me questions and I'll answer honestly, but you know what I mean?
Oh no, that is, I mean, there's plenty
And
of
he's a little
reasons
bit
I don't
younger
have
than
children. But no, I'm dead serious because I'm not going to say I'm some deep thinking intellectual, but no, it really bothers me. I don't know, because I was raised Catholic and I was an altar boy and I had institution installed, but then I also had at least open mindedness, right? To explore, and now I'm pretty much agnostic, but I don't disrespect
yeah.
things. To look, but I've also seen, like, I got friends that have never been exposed to it that are like, they don't even ever think about it, or they don't at least express they think about it. So like, you can't just throw a bunch of Bibles at a 13-year-old, a bunch of different doctorate and be like, choose, you want to be Jewish, Muslim, Catholic, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you can't,
Well,
there's no
yeah,
right
what
answer.
my
It's so much, I don't want
yeah.
anything to do with it. Like, this is kind of what this show is depicting, right? They're like, so what is the right way to go about this? How do we raise these kids? Because you still see it within those that aren't indoctrinated, right? Like, still see it.
Well, also, but mother's like, no, we know this is what we do. This is what we are. We don't do this. And so immediately, as soon as you tell a kid that this is what they have to be, they're going to be like, oh, now I'm going to be curious about this other stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas my parents are always like, my mother's Catholic, my dad is atheist. They are always like, it's up to you, like, to explore. And they did, and they let me do that. And they encouraged me to do that. So I think as soon as you tell somebody, you have to be like this, we're going to draw it in the sand and you can't go beyond that, then the child is going to be like, well, but now I'm curious. Now I want to know about that, as opposed to if she just allowed him to make the decision himself. But
No, and
as a
I agree.
culture,
And
as a
AK just
society,
said
to
it. Yeah.
say we're either a theist society or we're an atheist society, and you can't, there's no gray area allowed at all for
If I
that.
know anything about kids, and all I know is about me, we suck, and we'll never do what you think we'll do. So my kids would probably be just as terrible, and you just can't bet on it. But like you said, and like AK saying that, there's plenty of people that have open mindedness despite not having anything like installed in them. Because my point of view, of course, is I had an institution at least for a foundation, so I was able to. Then I got curious because I'm a very curious fellow, and I thought, oh, I'll look into this, right? But I am, but I'm a curious mind, and not everybody is like me. But at the same time, not everybody needs an institution installed within them at a young age in their formative years. So it's, I don't know. That's why I'm just so glad I don't have them. But I think the series, like, it really touches on it. I think it's really on the surface level. We'll start to wrap it up. I think that what we're in for right now is the reveal of the third party, meaning how dangerous can they really be? I'm starting to see that both parties,
like the Romulans. Do you think there's going to be like, there's the Federation?
Yeah, I think there's something big.
And then there's going to be another like a third shoe dropped.
Those pork monsters, as I'll call them, there's more to that, and that is what maybe
they're the babies.
It's gonna be a problem. There's gonna be trouble,
and it seems like there is maybe some intelligence there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like Peter Griffin had a great theory about it. I wish I could steal it. Maybe I will, Peter. Ha ha ha. We'll delete this. No. But like that Kepler 22 is not so much a virgin planet because again, they don't ask. They're like, oh, so are you believers or not believers? If you came to a planet in which you think nobody could inhabit before you, and you see people, and you're like, hey, how long have you been here? What God do you believe in? Like that's kind of like, I don't know. That seems a little bit out of place for me. But what I think is it makes sense in a storytelling sense, in a macro sense, for us to have them have to bond together right now for this last act, because we got 4 more episodes. We're at 4 more.
Well, there's 2 being, when are they being dropped? Is it tomorrow?
2 more tomorrow.
Okay.
I think they're gonna do 2
more.
So
that's 5, 6, 7, and then it'll be
finale.
Isn't there 10?
I assume they'll do
2, and then
I
the
have
finale.
no clue because they don't tell us, but I assume that would be the regiment right there.
One of the things I was going to say that I really hope happens is that this show gets a little bit more recognition. I haven't heard a lot of people talking about it, so I hope it's that type of thing, kind of like Dark. I hope that people will latch onto it, or that it'll, like Peter, by the way, was just mentioning the first episode is on Netflix or on YouTube, right?
Yeah, for free. Yeah,
so you can watch it for free on YouTube, and I really do, because I think it's a really great show. It's very slick.
It's if you're a fan of Westworld and you are somebody that likes to have a thought-provoking show, but also a pretty entertaining show as well, right? I mean, it actually is a lot better looking than the trailers depicted it to be. I thought it looked a little bit like I thought it looked about 5 years too late, right? Like 5 years behind, like Dark Phoenix style. No. I actually think the show is aesthetically more efficient, and in the storytelling is very efficient. I think that it is fast tracking some of the same philosophy and theology in which we discuss with Westworld, and I think it's something that's worth watching. And right now there isn't a lot of new out there that's good, people. Like, and even grading this on a scale, it's a fucking A+, but grading it without the scale, it's a fucking still almost an A+. Like, it's really good. I'm really into it. Like, I have no issue after watching it tomorrow, like just getting on and yapping to you guys about it. Like, and that's, I got hubris and I'm a cocky son of a bitch, and it is what it is. But I can't do that for everything. I'm excited about it.
I think like Westworld, like I don't know what the budgets are, but I think like Westworld, which is kind of cinematic, it's got some, not just the writing, but also just the visuals and the quality. So with this show, even though it's sort of like a kind of a smaller cast, there's a lot of it's very top drawer, I would say. It's very sophisticated. And so I mean, I could see this being a film because of the quality that it is. But of course, there's a long story to tell. Now, one of the things I didn't ask you, Justin, is it based on a book?
No, it's not. There's no pre-existing IP in which this derives from, except for Ridley Scott's love for androids. Prometheus is obviously present within this, but there is no, that's important. And that's excellent too, as well, that there's no pre-existing IP. Because that was one of the first things I researched. I'm like, so what the fuck is this based off of? They didn't just fucking, but they wrote this for the screen. And trust me, there's a lot of pros to that because we're watching it on the screen. We get it in the medium in which it was written for. And we've seen now plenty of different writers, different directors, right? So we've seen them go throughout almost their whole bench, meaning there's not a drop in quality after Ridley leaves or after Aaron, doesn't write one. I forget.
Yeah, and I mean, Ridley is also a producer, correct? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So he's obviously brought in people who he knows, or
his son. I will, because he had a brother that died.
So
he
sad.
had cancer. But you remember that his brother did Total Recall. Like his brother kind of got put in niched into like a certain type of like action.
That's Tony Scott.
Yeah. So Scott Free Productions, I'm not going to pretend to speak for these people.
They have a studio in Toronto.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah, but I will go ahead and say that just human nature tells me that he is going to be more invested in a product like this for his family and his production company at this later stage in his life. And he's not just going to lay out crap because he sees the advantageous side of long form storytelling throughout television now. So a smart guy like Scott, and he did all the storyboards like he always does for all this. Like a lot of people will say he's more of a cinematographer than a director. A little bit taken out of context there, but he's just as much. He is very prevalent.
Justin, you remember when I interviewed Roger Christian from Star Wars? And so Roger also worked on Alien with, with Giger and obviously with, oh my God, I've just lost it. Ridley Scott. So one of the things he was talking about was what an amazing artist Ridley Scott is, which is rare. It's kind of like a Tim Burton thing. So he does a lot of his own drawings. And this is one of the things I did want to mention is I'm going to bet that a lot of the visuals, the costumes were probably, a lot of it was in Ridley's own mind. Even though he worked with Yancey, he probably visualized a lot of this, prevised a lot of this stuff, I bet.
Yeah, I've got a few of the storyboards, which I'll link. Everything other than the intro song. The intro song, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, people. I love the fuck out of the show. It's atrocious. I think this intro song needs oh my God, is it bad? It's like, come on,
I know.
I get it. Yeah.
I'm like fast for. Oh yeah, I
it's
have
so
to
bad,
agree
right?
with you.
Oh, thank God.
I hate it.
I hate it too.
I don't like anything about it. Actually, I was kind of like, I'm trying to figure out if they were trying to be like edgy or like, I don't know what was going on with their brains on that.
They said, let's do something terrible. They're like, oh,
and like, meanwhile, like the score is like, I mean, I can't even think about the score. Like everything seems to be really on point with the show itself. But yeah, I'm not crazy about that opening.
Terrible. I guess better terrible intro that we all get the skip button for anyway.
Like Westworld's opening is so good. Yeah. Westworld, Game of Thrones, of course it's the same composer, but there's so many good openings, titles or whatever. And then to see that, I'm like, Peter says it must be bad because I don't even remember.
Thank God
it's
you
just
don't.
Like really weird. It's kind of like it's supposed to be, I think, Armageddon. It's supposed to show all the wars and stuff like that, really, and kind of what happened, I suppose, before this point. I guess at first I thought it was like a black hole. I'm like, is that a black hole? Because I'm like, because I was thinking, it reminded me of the black hole in what's that Christopher Nolan movie?
Interstellar.
Interstellar. So you got a circle going this way and then a circle going. I was like, is that a black hole? What the hell is that thing?
Hold on, like, no, I can play it. Hold on, it's bad. It's really bad, guys. Like
Bruce loves it.
Oh, Bruce, I love you, but hey, I think you want me to be honest with you. I think it's terrible, but hey, that's a subjective truth on my part.
Says he might like it though. I'll check it out tomorrow. Justin's gonna play it right now.
Oh, it's so bad, people. Like honestly, I'm a pretty shitty guitar player, and my finger sliced with a knife. I got one behind me, and there's only 5 strings on that guitar behind me. I think I could do a better theme song than this. Hold on, it's bad, but you want to know what? The series is good, so I'll take it. But yeah,
Yeah,
let's hear it.
you know what? I always skip the intro. So that's, I don't know what you guys do when you're watching stuff, except for Game of Thrones, because it was always different. But I'm like, no.
Oh, I skipped this right away because I need
But I do it with every show. I do it with every show. Jack's always like yelling at me, get the remote, because if you don't hit it in time, it won't skip forward.
yeah, I need like a Lexapro or something, like an
pioneers.
present or something. Here it is.
Yeah, we're talking about, well, yeah, Alicia, we're talking about the show intro theme song slash, visuals.
It's on screen right now.
Justin's trying to find it.
Oh, it's here.
I see something happening.
They should. I can't get. It's so long. It's so bad. Sorry. It's.
Alicia says she can hear it. She's listening. Oh, she's listening to it. Yeah. Well, guys, it's on It's on YouTube.
Yeah,
like
I don't know why.
episodes,
I'm
so
not a
masochist.
masochist. I don't want to
You
go
can
through it.
Yeah. I always just kind of go click. Like I always just do that. I mean, there's this one show called The Path that I was watching.
Oh,
that's
with Aaron.
Aaron, from Breaking Bad, Westworld.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't think of his last name. I hate that opening. I friggin' hate it. And so every time it'd be like, where's the remote? Because if you don't click it right at a certain point, it'll just play through.
Yeah. Want to know what though, Peter, Bruce, you guys know I love you and I'm happy you can enjoy it because you guys help me create content. So like if you don't, I find it painful because I find it to be like, why? I know so many artists, even like on YouTube, that like do covers of like Jenny's song and the Vikings intro that are so talented. I'm like, it just seems like the voice is off, the tempo's off. It's very I don't know. Again, it makes me want to like go back on antidepressants. I'm just saying, that's just me.
Yeah.
If you took my mental stability for everything that you wanted, I mean, you'd be fucked. So that is what it is, guys. I mean, that's a subjective truth.
Yeah, it's not like I was like, oh my God, like I have to bring it up. But now that you mention it, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not on. I don't think Jack likes it either. But if you guys like it, like, and the thing is music's very subjective. Yeah. Everyone has different tastes. Like one of the things we've been talking about, Alicia, she's been coming into our streams regarding, and Peter, about the other show that we're doing, God, help me out here. But I just lost it. A Lovecraft Country, sorry, Lovecraft Country. Is all the contemporary music that's used in the show. And it's sort of funny because like I'm one of the older people. So I'm like, I have no idea who these singers are, these performers. I have no idea. Like I'm like totally clueless because it's probably more the 30 set, that it's aimed at. So whereas the jazz stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm all about that. So it's just I think music can be a very subjective thing.
Oh, it definitely is. And I mean, I was a DJ for 10 years, so I definitely know. It's like putting one TV in a room full of 1,000 people and saying, pick a channel. So no, I don't think it's atrocious in some sense of like, it's lyrically inept or it's, tonally deaf or anything like that. Or it's jazz where they're like, let's play all the wrong notes, which can also be pleasant. Went to a few great jazz bars in my day, but yeah, it is what it is. And if that's my complaint about it, it's a pretty goddamn good show. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you that because
it is.
Yeah, if you got to be like, well, I don't, but I see a missed opportunity because I see there's a lot of depth within the song, within the meaning. So like, it's just too slow pace. It's kind of a Vikings. A lot of this is kind of a Vikings vibe, which is a good thing.
It was kind of like the Enterprise theme song. I don't know if you guys ever watched that show. It was just like a really weird, like normally they do, it's usually classical. Pretty much every Star Trek show has had like a classical theme song, right? And orchestral theme song. Whereas with Enterprise, they decided to go with like kind of like a pop song, and it was like kind of like Greatest American Heroes. That song was great. Like I thought that really worked for that show. But they kind of went with a sort of like I don't know, like an 80s sounding pop song, and it was really like a strange choice. And I remember being like, why would they choose that when normally always have sort of more cinematic, orchestral type music to start open a show.
Yeah, I want to say dour. I don't know if that's a word though. Like,
Dower,
yeah, I don't think that's a word.
dowager.
Yeah, like it's just kind of too slow for me. Like it's just I
Hmm.
don't know. It's just a little bit too. It just seems like it's like a downer for me.
Peter's mentioning the Mandalorian. That I saw a video with the composer. He's like a hipster. He's like in his 30s. That
Oh, that
guy.
bastard! Those goddamn
Yeah,
hipsters.
he's like
Want to know what though? I
But
like Bruce. I like Peter. I like everybody that's in the chat.
I love you
Obviously,
guys.
yeah, we love you. So it's like, hey, if they enjoy it, like that's fantastic. Never should you be shamed for enjoying something.
Of course not.
And that shows the amount that I want from the show as well, because like I feel emotionally connected to it, and I feel like that the intro for me is a little bit off. So I'm like, oh, but it must have something in it that intrigues me because I expected something from it, right? I wanted something. And that's what hooks you. It's not like, oh yeah, like what's the soundtrack for the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which is a fantastic intro song because it tells the whole
They just had like their
origin.
30th anniversary, I
Yeah,
think.
they're redoing it. He's just playing some
Yeah.
basketball.
Oh, are they?
outside.
Oh my
It's cool.
God.
Yeah, but yeah, bad example because that's a fantastic intro song. But let's let everybody know where you're at. Thank you guys, and I'll probably be live after tomorrow nights. But yeah, I think that the big picture here is that we had a professional costume designer on, Heidi, from Costume Co. Her channel is in the links, and we talked a little bit about kind of the tropey, insanitary look of the show, but at the same time, a virgin planet with virgin ideals, virgin spiritual beliefs, and all this would be very much so not that diverse in clothing because they're not going to H&M or the Gap or Forever 21, maybe Forever Kepler 22, the trademark.
Yes.
Trademark.
Yeah, they'll open up as
I had a good idea. I had
store.
2 good ideas only this stream, and I forget the other one already. But yeah, remember whatever one it was. I had 2. I only
So
had 2 this one.
Justin will have to maybe after the 10th episode, we'll have to get together again and see what other things reveal themselves.
Oh, absolutely. I was so happy that you were watching it. You were enjoying it because like a lot of people
Yeah.
well, same with Lovecraft Country. Like I can't, like I know Gray's got it covered and I recommend her for all you guys, but it's like I can't, you know what I mean? Like
And Tony's doing it.
yeah,
as
Tony's
well.
doing it. Tony's got it. You know what I mean? Like there's creators
Mhm.
out there that are doing it. Like so it's like we all kind of like we pick up what we can. And, because I do try to, I mean, this is a little bit all over the place, but we like to have fun here, me and Heidi, like just dive in a little bit here, dive in a little bit there. But, I really do feel like this series dives into the theological and the philosophical issues that I like.
Peter said, Mother is good at weaving. She is the Gap.
She is, yeah. Yeah,
she is, and she makes the curtains too. She doesn't just do the clothing; she makes the curtains. I love that. I was
so
like,
she's Bed
"Oh,
Bath
Mother
and
did the
Beyond
curtains
as well." Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I worked at the Gap, and then I worked at Banana Republic. If you got moved down to Old Navy, then you was some scum. So yeah, I
Yeah,
got
that's
moved
like
up to
the
Banana.
lower. That's like the lower.
Yeah,
the Banana
you were
Republic's
fucked
up
if you got
here,
down
and
there.
then
Yeah, I was.
oh dear.
I was the most prevalent obtuse. But yeah, it was what it was. Yeah, but no, I can't thank you guys enough. I can't thank you for spending the time with us, Heidi. Always a critical eye and a professional eye, and a talented eye.
Well, it's always my pleasure. I will. Anytime you ask me to come on here, I will.
All right, I'll see you tomorrow night after the episode. So, yeah, no, we will hold it within reason. So thank you guys so much that are interested in this. And hey, you want to know what? Just for my Patreons and just for you, Peter, I'm going to listen to that intro until I either just end it all or I like it. All right.
I wonder if listening to it without the visuals might help. Like
I'm gonna
maybe
try a
you
lot
could
of things.
break
I'm gonna
it-
get
break
weird
it
with
apart.
it, Heidi. I'm gonna waterboard myself and listen. I'm gonna be like, well, what's worse? You know what I mean? Like, I'm
Oh
gonna
my
go.
God.
I'm that dedicated to you people. Like, I'm gonna be like, all right,
Yeah.
well, I got shot in my arm, and then I listened to it. And I
Yeah.
was like, wonder what the music's better than that bullet wound. So not so bad.
By the way, before we go, I was going to mention another great show. Justin, I don't know if you're watching. Is The Boys? Excellent show.
No, but I'm going to. It's been recommended to me, and it's been recommended to me since the very beginning. But Aya Cash, who plays Stormfront, is from You're the Worst. I'm a huge fan of her. From her films, she was in Wolf of Wall Street, not Raised by Wolves.
Okay.
You're the Worst is hilarious. She's a very versed and wide-ranging talent, and yeah, I'm definitely into that. So I'm definitely going to watch that as something that I'm just going to enjoy. If I make videos on it.
It is. It's a fun. And anyways, if you do watch it, I'll have to get you to come on my channel. We'll talk about it. The costumes are really fun in that.
They look it looks I mean it looks right. I'm not lying. Like it looks like it's right up my alley. So Raised by Wolf has been something that's been dropped on my lap that not only my Patreons wanted me to watch, but I wanted to watch, which is a win-win-win, right? And it's something that the boys will have to come after that because I got about time.
It's
for
you know,
one
and like,
series.
and again, like I don't want to compare apples to oranges, but like, Raised by Wolves is like here, and then
Yeah.
like The Boys is probably more like it's the same creator as Supernatural. So it's like it's fun. You know what I mean? Like it's a fun show.
I think it's irrelevant. I understand the concept of the show as well. I think there's a lot to be said for the show and the concept. I wouldn't discount
It's a
it one
great
bit.
concept. It's actually a really great concept.
And
I
relevant,
think.
I think. So yeah,
And
like, that's the reason I
absolutely.
actually strain like away from watching it right now is because I will want to make videos. Like I'll wait for Raised by Wolves to be done and then I'll start season 1. You get what I mean? Like because I know I'm gonna have something and for whatever it's worth
Yeah,
that I'm
because
gonna want to
Jack,
say.
I think I told you Jack pulls this crap with me all the time. Like the other day, I think I told you this. I'm like, he was started watching Brave New World. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I want to watch that. What's his name from Viserys is in that. Han Solo's in it. I want to watch that.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, I didn't know you were going to watch this." So now I made him wait because I said we're already watching like 5 series. I can't like watch another series right now. Come on.
Yeah, we're content creators. Come on, don't push too much on us. We're such
But anyway,
prima donnas.
but I would love to watch that and find out if you're gonna watch it.
Oh no!
eventually.
Brave New World. I did like a whole I did 2 streams on it because the
You did?
yeah, Aldous Huxley is like Brave New World is Westworld. Like I can't get into
Oh
it here.
no! I know, but have you? But I mean the new show.
Oh no,
the one
on
with
Peacock,
Viserys.
no, because I don't know what the fuck Peacock is. And I'll figure it out. I think it's more because Mackenzie L. Burns, shout out to her. Good friend of the channel.
Hi, Mackenzie.
Fantastic content creator. I don't know if she's here right now, but she's
lovely.
She told me that because she's like, "Are you gonna watch it?" Because she knows Johnny was with me for the other streams and stuff like that, and we kind of got our private brain trust and we kind of float ideas. And I'm like, "Oh, I definitely want to watch it, but I don't know where the fuck I'm gonna watch it." And she said it's on something different in Canada. So you 5 specific people there have it on something different. Here it's on something called Peacock that I have to probably pay for.
Oh,
and I will
okay.
watch it, and I hope other people do too, because Aldous Huxley's novel was very much so the inspiration. I mean, there's literally a Bernard. There's literally like it's almost allegorical, guys. So like we did 2 live streams that got like no views. Watch them. And yeah, that went over this. So like the actual
Peter, I think that can cause divorce with some people. There's this thing where you're like, and Jack and I have done this with each other, where you're like, you're watching a show together, but then the other person's like maybe away or whatever, and then you sneak ahead and you watch like a couple of. It's like cheating. It is. So I was like, what the? I was like, you can't watch that without me. What the hell? And Harry Lloyd, that's who's in it. Harry Lloyd, and it's so jarring because he's a brunette, right? Harry Lloyd's he doesn't have his wig, so he's got black hair. It's really jarring. The actor who plays Viserys. So
he's an ancestor of Dickens.
I heard that, and apparently Dickens was an asshole.
Yeah,
did you know that?
Sure
Yeah, yeah. But what's really interesting though? The other day, it was kind of like Sex in the City. I was standing on the street, and a bus went by with a big ad for Westworld or for Brave New World on it, and because I besides Jack going to watch it, I haven't really heard anything about it. Nobody's really been talking about it. It hasn't come up in my recommended, videos. So I don't know if it's sort of like one of those slightly quieter shows that people aren't really talking about, or maybe it hasn't taken off. I'm not sure.
There's a bus in Canada, look. Because there's 5 people, so one person must
It's
drive
very
the bus.
tiny.
So there's
It's
only
very
4
tiny.
people. You have to imagine 2 of those people at least are at work. So
it's
is
like
it
a
just a motorcycle
bookmobile.
with a sidecar? Is that what you guys think a bus is?
Yeah.
Like what the fuck
Yeah,
are
like
you
a little
talking about?
bookmobile.
There's no need for public transportation. Don't lie to us. There's 5 people there. One guy's on the bus.
Yes,
The other 2 are at work. I mean, come on.
Well, no, there's the moose. The moose needs to get a lift sometimes,
Driving
or
around
the
flipping
polar
mooses
bears.
is the best. I love you guys.
The polar bears driving. Yeah, but it was a
Santa
very
comes
tiny.
by.
It was a very tiny bus. It was very little, but
there's
it had
no
an ad on it. It was like one of those. You know what? Speaking of that, have you seen? This is crazy, but there's people who have these wheelchairs. They're kind of like motorized wheelchairs with a basket in the front, but now you can get like a cover put over it, so it looks like you're in a little car.
I don't, because I know there's
It's like a
legitimate need of
shield.
those. You're putting me down a road that I'm not going to be able to, unlive with subscribers. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, usually those people are the people buying a bunch of Oreos at Walmart, and those. So yeah, I don't have anything really great to say about them. But I'm sure there's going to be some legitimate people that need them. But yeah, you're getting a bad word. But yeah, bus in Canada has to be like a tandem bicycle.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or a rickshaw.
Or some sort of, something for the, we'll get it. We'll get a better joke. Yeah, something.
I'll find a picture of one.
Yeah, a bunch of fucking
and show you.
Land of always winter.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, and it's funny because Alicia last night was in the stream and I was defending Canada because I was getting attacked about it personally. I was a little upset, but I was like, the reason why we always mention Canada as Canadians, we're always constantly having to mention it is because we're neurotic and we're always like, well, the United States is like 10 times our size. So we're always like, well, actually, and no, it's 5 people. So it's actually 100,000 times our size. But, or 100 million times. No, I said the reason why I always have to make a point of saying Canada is because we're so neurotic and sort of insecure about our Canadian.
Do you feel like it's kind of like a Schrodinger's cat situation, which you do not observe Canada, it does not exist? Like
it is. Yeah. There's some people who don't know we're here, so we feel.
I don't think like, if you look, it's like if a tree falls in a wood type situation. Yeah, it's like some quantum physics shit. Like I honestly think that's a fucking minuscule Canada is. Like Justin Trudeau is an idea. He is not a person. That's how we'll leave it.
He's a puppet or something.
Come at
he's
me,
like,
Canada.
We blow him up. He's a sex doll. We blow him up.
I had my ass beat by some bouncers in Windsor coming over from Detroit.
Windsor's kind of rough.
Well, yeah, it is because we all went over there to drink at 19. And we go over there. So in Detroit, you could go over there and drink when you're turn 19. So we'd go there and we'd run. I ran my mouth all night to this guy. We got in a fight in the Hungry Howie's or some place like that. But by the end of the night, I was being held by one of the bouncers because I just kept talking shit about your guys' loonies and all this, and I deserved every bit of it. But yeah, it was like a movie style ass beating where somebody holds you.
That's funny.
It was bad. Yeah. I was about like, so I remember thinking, I'm like, oh, this is pretty bad. Like, this is one of the bad ones. Like, and I'm like, oh, I actually deserve. I was conscious. I was like, I deserve
Windsor's
this.
kind of a little bit of a rough town.
Oh, screw them. I should have had his ass. No, I deserved a bit of that.
But it's a border town, So a lot of people, I think, cross over to go drinking.
That was bad. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we used to be in customs growing up. Yeah, they'd be like, you guys going back? And then you drive back over, and it's very illegal to drive drunk, obviously. Very illegal to drive drunk at 19. Even so yeah, no, I deserve that Canadian ass whooping. I'll be finding that one guy out of 5 that you still got over there.
Yeah.
So if a bouncer is holding me,
he was probably deported.
So that meant 30% of your population was a part of that. Yeah, that's bullshit. No, I deserve every bit of that.
When we get to 6 people, they have to deport them. They have to deport them back to where they came from, wherever that is.
Yeah, that was a lesson. That was a lesson for me for sure. I knew what that was all about. I'll tell you that. So yeah, you guys with your damn loonies, irresponsible.
Oh, Alicia says she has no problem imagining you drunk.
Yeah, no, she's seen it. Yeah, no, I've got.
Oh, Alicia! Oh my God! Last night on the stream, I think I had 5 glasses of wine. Now they weren't full glasses. They were kind of like spritzers, but I ended up falling. I ended up going to bed.
Friends bought me drinks. I had every opportunity. It was just like a magnet, like going towards an ass whooping. I was the magnet, like just going towards it, like all night. Like I think it was a little bit of like self-hate.
I've never been in a bar fight. I mean, I've been at a bar where I've been in a bar where there's been a fight and there's been broken glass and stuff, but I've never actually been in a bar fight. But I don't know, maybe women don't get.
Yeah, when I DJ'd, we were in a lot. It was like I worked at one bar that was like Roadhouse. Like I would jump. I remember my dad came in and built, because he was a carpenter. He
like
built
Patrick
the glass.
Swayze.
Yeah, it was really bad. Because
type Roadhouse.
Yeah, it was like the owner was big on like nose energy. So like it was really unprofessional. And the bouncers didn't like get anybody out of there. They would just hit somebody. So like any situation escalated really, really quickly. So those were the fun days. But no more for that. No, that Canadian incident, I deserved every bit of it. But I still think giving us a bunch of damn coins with bucks on them, it's just irresponsible. They're like, I gave you paper money. Don't give me like old medieval coin bags.
It gets heavy, actually. It gets heavy because you get toonies and loonies.
And I always have to hold it out to the bartender and they take whatever they want. I don't know what your freaking money means.
There's speaking of border towns, there's a place down Ellicottville in New York where they'll accept Canadian Tire money. Like,
Jesus.
Yeah, you can
You've
go
been to
there.
Sarnia? We went to Sarnia as like the like Walmart Windsor.
Sarnia is even worse than Windsor.
Oh, I know. I was also
There's a chemical plant there, so you don't want to drink the water.
but there
It's
was
like
a
one of
strip
those.
club as well, so we went quite
Oh,
often.
of course. Yeah, of course there was.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a friend from Sarnia. I shouldn't say bad things about Sarnia.
It's a bad place, I'll say it. Yeah, I had two friends that were actually deported from Sarnia. So yeah, like it's a fucking country.
Yeah, they probably got sent back to where they came from because we're 5 is our quota. We're no more.
Yeah, they're hey. 3 of you coming over? All right. 40% of our population.
Oh, OTDA's here. Hi, OTDA. Yeah.
OTDA.
We're just wrapping up. We're like, this is typical.
Canada.
This is what I do to Justin. I'm just like, he'll be like, okay, the show's over, and then I'll just keep talking.
Well, she knows my weakness, and it's my hubris.
Oh my
and
god!
My hate
like
for
last
Canada.
time we did Dark, I think you and I ended up talking for like an hour after or something, and I'm like, I gotta go to bed.
I do.
It was like after midnight or something. Oh my gosh!
The smart collaborators, Heidi. They know to get it right off after. Like they know.
See ya.
Yeah. So
hi, Amanda.
Yeah. Hey, Amanda. No. So that's enough shitting on Canada. I feel like I could lose that demographic and still be fine. But,
oh no. Yeah. Canadians don't mind being made fun of. What they don't like is not being talked about.
Yeah.
But they don't mind. They don't mind being poked fun at. We actually love it. We think it's hilarious.
Yeah. They'll just hold you and beat you.
Yeah.
Deserved it. Yeah, I'm not coming for you. Deserved it, fella. So, handsome guy too. That made it worse. Let's see. You know what I mean? That's kind of sucks. At least you could be like,
handsome Canadian.
Yeah, he was a good looking guy too. Yeah, so it kind of sucked. All right, wrap it up there. Make sure to subscribe and check out Heidi's channel. And I will probably be live around 8 tomorrow. And if I don't do one after tomorrow, because I sometimes feel like you guys.
You're gonna do a reaction?
I'm not gonna watch it and be all wide-eyed, crazy person. But I might do an initial live stream is what I've been doing. But I feel that if they do 2 again, which I know they are, that I might want to wait till Friday. I want everybody to see.
You need to absorb it. Yeah, give everyone a chance to watch it.
Exactly. So if I'm gonna do it live, I'll do it live.
Yes, OTDA it is. Totally.
Get some loons ready. You guys gotta do those
some
super
loonies.
chat with those loonies with the fucking. I'm like, what
some loonies and tonies.
Ridiculous. All right, we're gonna play you out.
Bye, everyone.